And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Forbidden Island.
It's a game from Gamewright Games. It's designed by Matt Leacock, who's very well known for designing Pandemic, a cooperative game. And this is a cooperative game too. It has a fun theme where there's this island that's sinking beneath the sea, and you need to get on there, get some treasures, and get out. It's a very pure cooperative game. There's no competition at all. Players are simply working together to try and win. You can make it pretty easy, all the way up to very difficult to win this game. And I think it serves as an excellent introduction to children or young people as to how a cooperative game can and should work. Here's the island. It's set up randomly. It's set up in this shape, but randomly each time you play the game. And there's, really great artwork, and it shows, different names of different places. Phantom Rock, and the Tidal Palace, and the Dunes of Deception. So you set this place up, and then the island is going to start sinking. You turn over 6 cards and show which 6 parts sink, in which case you flip them over. So Phantom Rock, and Tidal Palace, and Whispering Garden.
Where's Whispering Garden?
Whispering Garden's over there. And the 4th one, Copper Gate, right next to Fool's Landing. And then the Watchtower. And then finally, we have the Howling Garden, So, at the beginning of the game, those 6, and it will be 6 different ones each turn, are going to be flipped over. Over to the side of the board, we have a chart that shows how quickly the island is going to sink. Where you start this slider, you can start it at Novice, Normal, Elite, or Legendary. So we'll start it at Normal for this game. And that will determine how quickly the island sinks. Now the goal is to get treasures. You can see these are really nice plastic models, soft plastic models that you're trying to get 4 different treasures. And each treasure has 2 corresponding locations. So say for example, the one that Melody just showed there, the jewels, you can get that at either the Cave of Shadows, or the other location you can get that jewel is down here at the Cave of Embers. So you cannot let either one of these treasures, they both have 2 locations. If both locations sink completely, then there's no way to get that treasure anymore. Now, there's 6 adventurers in the game. Each adventurer has a different color. The colors match a different style of the different adventurer who goes down. The Navigator, Messenger, Explorer, Engineer, Diver, and Pilot. Each of them has a special ability, and each of them has a very specific spot that they start. For example, the Pilot starts on Fool's Landing, and you can tell that because there's the blue token there, while the red player, who is the Engineer, would start on the Bronze Gate. And so that's where players start. And then you're going to shuffle a deck of treasure cards right here. And these treasure cards will be dealt out to each of the players. Most of the treasure cards are going to show you different pictures of the treasures, while some of them are special cards, and unfortunately some of them are pretty nasty cards that say Water Rise. And the game is ready to begin. On a player's turn, the very first thing they do is they can take 3 actions. Now there are different actions that they take. They can move to an adjacent spot, not diagonally, although one of the players has a special ability to do that. So movement is one of the actions you can take. You can also shore up, which means you take a part of the island that's sinking and flip it back to the right side. You have to be adjacent to it to do so. A third thing you can do is you can take a treasure card and give it to somebody else. Alright? As long as you're both in the same location, you can give treasure cards one to another. And then the fourth thing you do is if you have 4 treasure cards that are of the same type, like for example I have 4 chalices here, discard all 4 of those. As long as I'm on the location where the chalice is, for example the Tidal Palace, I discard those 4, and then I will get the chalice. And again, the object is to get all 4 of these. After I'm done with that, I draw 2 treasure deck cards, and most of these will give more treasures and more special actions. And after that, I have to draw 2 flood cards, which means 2 more parts of the island are going to start sinking. Now, that's all well and good, but what's really bad is when you turn over one of these treasure cards that says Water Rise. Now, when this happens, we do the actions on it. 3 things. First, we move the water level up 1 tick mark. So I take the water level, I move it up 1 tick mark. Now this is not good here because this means instead of drawing 2 flood cards each turn, I'm going to draw 3. Then I'm going to take the flood cards that we've already gone through, shuffle these cards, and put them back on top of the flood deck, which means as we draw more flood cards, they're going to be the same places where flooding has already occurred. And then we will discard this card into the treasure discard pile, which means you will see it again. Now, let's say, for example, Phantom Rock, which is already submerged underwater, sinks again. At that point, we take it out of the game, which could be pretty bad because you don't want some places to sink. If you haven't got the treasures for a certain category, you don't want the 2 matching tiles for that treasure to disappear. You can never let Fool's Landing sink because you need to get back there and escape the island after you get all 4 treasures. And you definitely don't want to be on top of one of them when it sinks, although you can swim to an adjacent spot. There's only one way to win. All 4 people who are playing the game, or less if there's less than that, everyone has to get back to the Fool's Landing with all their pawns. They all have to move back to Fool's Landing, and then one player has to play a treasure card, which is a helicopter lift. They play that, and you win the game. Now, other than that, though, if 2 of the same places sink completely, and you haven't got the treasure yet that matches those places, you lose. If Fool's Landing sinks, you lose. If a player is on top of a tile that sinks, and there's no adjacent tiles that they can swim to immediately, and that means they die, then everybody loses. Or if the water level for some reason gets to the skull and crossbones, how you would still be alive at that point anyway is beyond me, but you also would lose. So it's a lot of fun, and again, like I said, the different people have special abilities. The pilot can fly on his turn 1 time. He can fly to any spot. The diver can move through spots. You know, when there's a water spot, he can move through that spot instead of having to go around it. The engineer can shore up 2 tiles. The explorer can move and shore up tiles diagonally. The messenger can give treasure cards to people anywhere they're at. And the navigator can move someone else 2 tiles for 1 action. So you have to work together to win this game. Forbidden Island is a very well designed game. If you've played Pandemic, also designed by Matt Leacock, you will notice quite a few comparisons, even how the special abilities work, giving cards to someone else to stop someone. Pandemic was about stopping diseases. Here you're stopping an island from sinking. This is a very adventurous theme and will appeal to kids. I think that once you get to, let's say, maybe mid-teenage years, this is not going to really appeal to you. I had fun playing it, but I was playing with kids and having a good time. I think that once I get a little older than that, I want to progress to something that gives more options, like Pandemic, or Ghost Stories, or other cooperative games. This is very straightforward. It's usually very obvious what you should do in your turn. The rules are not so constrictive that you can, it's pretty simple to work together. That does not mean it's an easy game. In fact, I don't know how you can beat it on Legendary. It's very difficult, but it gives kids a very good satisfaction of winning, and it feels very tense the whole time. Oh, the island's going to sink.
At least we won.
Yeah, well, you know what? Don't worry about me. Melody, what do you think of the game?
It's kind of really hard, and whenever, something sinks, I always get a little scared of, we might not win. And I wasn't very, sure that we were going to win the first time we played, so. But at least we did.
But you like it? Yes, and it's fun. It's fun to work together as a team. You can play 2, 3, 4 people. The artwork is fantastic. The mechanics are very simple. It's easy to set up and take down. It's just a very well designed game. It comes in a really nice tin too. So it's a box. If you are interested in playing games with your children and you want a cooperative game, this is fantastic. One of the best new games I've seen this year.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.